This is why I want everybody to know, this is why I have my crown on, because the book is African Goddess Initiation, and I am so excited about it. July 20th, it's coming out. You can order right now. Oh my God, look at that thing. Ooh, it's thick, honey.
I bought them a couple of days ago. I received them and yes.
It's so beautiful. It has beautiful illustrations. Why now? Why are we ready now for a book like this? Because I think for so long, you're right, Black people, if it wasn't about Jesus, listen, we don't want to hear about it, okay? If we're not talking about Jesus, no, thank you. So why now? Why are we ready for this?
It's interesting because, for 20 years, I've basically been pitching different versions of this book and have heard, again, the different versions of folks don't want it, folks aren't ready, this, that, and the other. I think that we are at a point where, there's a point in evolution where if everything else that you've been trying has not worked, and you've been looking outward, again, this happens on a big scale and on a small scale, you start to realize you have to look inward.
Yes.
And it's not, and let me give us some, give us a break. It's not our fault that in school, for example, we learned about Venus and Athena and Aphrodite and all of that, but we didn't learn about Oshun and Oya and Sekhmet. We didn't learn these things.
Yes.
And the well-meaning people who raised us couldn't teach us because they didn't know.
Right.
And African, anything that is African has been demonized for so very long that we didn't want anything to do with it. And a lot of folks still don't, because we've been taught and indoctrinated with the idea that, oh, that's evil, that's bad, that's
colonized.
Right. You gotta decolonize your spirituality, just like you gotta decolonize your brain, your heart, and everything else.
Yes. And no judgment to our ancestors.
No judgment at all.
Everybody did the best they could.
The very best.
And you know what? Jesus, first of all, I love Jesus. Jesus is amazing. I love Yeshua. And he's great for what he does and all those things. But that doesn't mean that our spirituality can't be expansive. It doesn't have to be about one thing, right?
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. I'll give you an example. My father is a minister in a church in the Caribbean that's known as Spiritual Baptist. That's a little bit different than Baptist here because it includes African retention and our drumming and our songs and all of that. So I grew up in much of this, but that is an example of how someone could have a more open-hearted and inclusive view. You have to really think about it. Like, you're watching this and you are a person of African descent. Think about, just for a second, ask yourself the question, if something is telling me that everything that I come from is evil and wrong, that if it looks like you, that if the divine looks like you, that is evil, bad, wrong, something is wrong with that.
So yes, and let's think about that. Let's give it some thought. Yes. When you talked about the drums in the times of enslaved peoples, we weren't even able to have drums because they knew the spirituality of the drum beat.
Sis, let me share something with you, my good girlfriend, Goddess Lauren. I interviewed a lot of people from this book because, you and I cut from the same geeky cloth where we can geek out on something and we combine heart also academically and do a deep dive. So when my ancestors gave me the sacred assignment of writing this book, I came from it heart and spirit, and also, as an academic, did deep dive research and interviewed a lot of people, including my parents, who are from Guyana, South America. I'm a first generation American, first person born in my family born in the USA. And I interviewed my mother and my father. I did not know until I interviewed my dad that in his lifetime, in my parents' lifetime, that drums were illegal in Guyana, a Black country with Black people, where Black people were trafficked and enslaved and chattel slavery, etc. And he shared with me, I have to share this interview, he shared with me how they had to turn off all the lights and, they had to pray by candlelight, turn off all the lights and stuff because there were raids. When my dad was born, Guyana was at the time British Guyana, and it was still a British colony.
Oh,
and so any religion that was connected with African religion was illegal because they considered it to be, evil and all of that. And so drumming, all of those things, my father now is teaching me how to drum. You know, traditionally in African culture, you didn't teach the girls, but my sister and I are going to be learning. And my father said that there were raids. It was illegal. Think about that. Like, that's
That's
crazy.
crazy, but that's how powerful it
Yes.
is.
For the Baga people in West Africa, there was something called forced demystification. Forced demystification, where it meant purposefully getting rid of the art, the drums, the things that, you know, are fundamentally African and condemning them as evil. And it was an initiative until 1984. Until 1984. And so, you know, these things are not accidental. You know, it's not accidental, the things that we learn to hate ourselves, you know, the things that we learn to hate about our hair and our skin and our noses and our
Yes.
lips that people are paying for, and our booties, you know, that folks are paying good money for.
BBLs are all the rage, honey.
All the rage.